Roll Tide! And welcome to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. Along with our producer and on-site engineer Todd Robbins, our studio producer Jared Kelly, and former Crimson Tide quarterback Tyler Watts, I'm Roger Hoover. It is great to say hello to you as we talk Crimson Tide football for the next hour here at Baumhower's in Vestavia Hills. And Tyler Watts, we get to talk after an Alabama win against Vanderbilt.
Boy, and that was one we were all nervous about going into the contest after what they had done to us the previous year. Were we going to have the ability really to stop them offensively? And it did not look good on the opening two drives for Vanderbilt, but that defense was able to settle in and just an outstanding job of creating two turnovers inside the red zone that eliminated any chance of Vanderbilt being able to compete in that ball game. But it was, like Coach DeBoer had told us and thought, it was a four-quarter fight. You never could quite pull away from them. You got up 6, you got up 9. Would have felt a whole lot more comfortable with touchdowns in those situations, but because of the play of the defense, you felt good about getting ahead of Vanderbilt and forcing them in some uncomfortable situations.
And for Vanderbilt, we knew they were going to run the football well, but they end up with only 135 yards offensively on the ground, and it seemed like in the second half they had no room to run.
I bet you 100 of that was on 2 plays by Cedric Alexander on the opening drive where he takes it 60-something or 70 yards for a touchdown, and then Diego Pavia has a 30 or 40-yard scramble as well in the next possession that did not result in points. So this defense really clamped down, made a couple of adjustments, and just played lights out. And they're doing it with players that are younger who we kept waiting for them to come around and really turn the corner and provide that depth. But now they're starting to look more and more like starters. And all the rotations that have taken place over the previous 4 games or so, where you're kind of scratching your head saying, why don't we have our best guys out there? Well, now you're starting to see the fruits of that as multiple players have tons of experience, and they're going in and contributing.
And just no indecision, it seemed like. Everyone had their assignment, stuck to it this past
Much
week.
Different than the previous year where we were kind of, our heads were spinning around. Where's the ball? Where's the ball? It looked like that 3-cup game that they play in the Carnival. Not this year. Everyone kind of stuck to what they were doing. We're tackling everybody, and just a great job defensively. Can't tip your hat enough to those guys.
Yeah, it didn't allow any points to the Commodores in the second half of that ball game. And again, this team keeps playing with confidence. We've seen it build every week since Florida State.
Yeah, we have, and not missing a beat offensively, continuing to push the ball down the field, really straining that defensive unit. I've never seen in my life a cover 2, cover 4 with such deep concepts out of their safeties. They were fearful of these Alabama receivers getting behind them, and they were giving up 20-yard chunk plays as a result of it. So heck of a job by Ty Simpson of being able to pick apart that defense. And one thing we don't talk about enough is the offensive line play. They continue to protect Ty Simpson and allow those deep routes to be able to develop and open up, and just a great job up front. The best we have seen them in the run blocking game, and by far they just continue to improve in pass pro as well.
So that's a great rundown of everything we saw on Saturday for Alabama against Vanderbilt. We're going to continue breaking down that win for the Crimson Tide. We will look ahead to what's coming up this Saturday, Alabama against Missouri as well, plus take a look around the Southeastern Conference and college football. We're with you for the next hour from Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. This is Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Bama showing pressure, and they bring it. Pavia looking, stepping up in the pocket, has some room. Gets run down, though, across the 5 and gets hit. It's a loose football, and Bama says they have it. It was stripped by Justin Jefferson. Bama takes it away. Turnover forced by the Crimson Tide. They'll have it at their own 8-yard line.
Make sure you keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app presented by Cadence Bank, available at the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. Just heard really what was, in my opinion, the play of the game. The forced fumble by Justin Jefferson, recovered by Tim Keenan, and we heard in Chris Stewart's play-by-play call, one simple word from you, Tyler Watts, that said it all. Ball. Anytime you hear a color analyst say that, you know that's a good thing for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was a heck of a drive. And you think about the situation that Alabama was in at that point. They're down inside the 15-yard line. It's 3rd and, 8 or 9 or so, and he scrambles. All right, well, worst case scenario, we stop him short. They kick a field goal. The problem is they go up 2 scores at that point. It's exactly where Vanderbilt wanted to be, us playing catch-up once again for the second year in a row. And instead, Justin Jefferson, the heck of an effort play there, able to strip it. And you talk about how close Diego Pavia's knee was to the ground. It couldn't have been more than an inch or two off when that ball finally was freed away from his paws. And then Tim Keenan being able to jump on it. And what does the Alabama offense do? They go right down the field, they tie it up, and now it's a different, completely, it was a 14-point swing. And that was pivotal at that point because the fans were into it, everything was going good. We had opened up the game on a great drive that ended up in an interception, and it would have been just a deflated stadium at that point had they scored a touchdown or even gone up 10-0. But instead, wasn't in the cards. The Alabama defense, that was the first great play that they had made all day, and they were able to turn it over, and then we tied it up.
And for all that Alabama, of course, suffered last year against Vanderbilt, against Diego Pavia, he ends up in courts essentially trying to get an extra year of eligibility due to his JUCO status. He's granted a waiver to come back for an extra year, and other players are able to take advantage. The man that forces that fumble, Justin Jefferson, would not be at Alabama if not for Diego Pavia in that lawsuit last year.
How about that? So that play never would have happened. It's kind of been a crazy circumstance here, and I'm sure Diego is probably trying to appeal to get another 7th or 8th year. He'll end up playing with his son like LeBron before long. It's something, though, that with everything coming into this game and all the talk and all the history between these two programs, obviously it's amazing that we're even talking about Vanderbilt in this light, but this was a really good football team, and you can't take that away from them. On both sides of the ball, just a mature football team that makes it awfully difficult for you to be explosive. You have to be patient with them on both sides, really. And so for this team to respond, especially after the big win in Athens, Georgia last week, to be able to come back and put 2 consecutive games together, now you're starting to see a trend. And hopefully throughout the course of this week's practice, they can carry that momentum into Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, sticking with Alabama's defensive effort against Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia ends up throwing for 198 yards, but really not too many huge plays. 33 yards to Cole Spence, but other than that, kind of dinking and dunking a little bit against this Alabama defense.
And that's because of what the defense was forcing. We stayed back in zone coverage, forcing just a little check downs, and it was, unfortunately, it's death by 1,000 cuts, so to speak. It's what we experienced last year. However, this is a different offense for Vanderbilt than what they brought into Nashville last season. They weren't necessarily the ball control type. They wanted to take some shots, and you took him out of that, and it frustrates you as a quarterback. You're trying to get that big play because you're accustomed to having that big play, and when it doesn't occur, then you start pressing. And it took a long time, but finally back inside the red zone in the fourth quarter, Keon Sabb gets the interception because of a bad read by Diego Pavia trying to make a play that was not there, and Alabama's able to capitalize on it.
Crimson Tide capitalized, pick up the win 30-14 over Vanderbilt to start SEC play 2-0. We'll continue breaking down that game, plus again thoughts on the Southeastern Conference and Alabama against Missouri coming up later in the show. This is Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Wideouts in tight to each side. Fake the pitch left side. Simpson scrambling, looking, firing, end zone, touchdown. Ty Simpson to Ryan Williams. 14 yards. And Bama is an extra point away from tying this one.
Tide fans, J&J Apparel, your trusted source for Bama gear. New Alabama hats, t-shirts, and polos are arriving daily. Visit online at jnjapparel.net, or you can shop their retail store at 1926 University Boulevard in downtown Tuscaloosa. RTR with J&J. Just heard that highlight of the first touchdown of the game for Alabama. It was Ty Simpson to Ryan Williams, and Tyler, he could not have been any more wide open in the end zone.
No, he did an excellent job. They were trying to flood the zone and try to find reading short to high, and Ryan Williams is kind of a drag across the back of the end zone. Well, he just, as you run out of room as a receiver and you're working that back of the end zone, the defender a lot of times will lose track of where you are because he's trying to stay between you and the quarterback. So Ryan Williams just pivoted, bought himself about 4 or 5 yards, very similar to how Isaiah Horton did versus Georgia in the back of the end zone, and was completely wide open because it was man coverage. Heck of a job by Ty Simpson. He's got a defender right in his face. He pulls up, steps into the throw, and delivers a strike for the first score.
Really good to see Ryan Williams. 6 catches, 98 yards in this ball game. 1 touchdown, had a 54-yard completion, but I also love 7 times he was targeted, 6 catches.
7 for 7's better, but we'll take 6, won't we?
Progress.
He is a threat, and I don't care if you throw to him twice over the course of a game. I keep telling everybody, defensive coordinators are uber concerned about what he is capable of doing. Therefore, they have to devote a lot of resources and a lot of thought of how to not allow him to impact the game. And all that does is help out everyone else, all the other receivers on the field for Alabama. Jeremy Bernard benefits from it and vice versa. Latair Brooks obviously is able to take advantage of it as well as a lot of the tight ends. So the fact that he is out there, he's getting his targets, he's getting his catches, he continues to be a problem for defensive coordinators. I'm telling you, this is a dynamic wide receiver room that is a huge weapon for Ty Simpson, and especially with the fact that that offensive line is able to allow protection for them to be able to go and do damage there in the secondary. One thing we don't talk about enough in this particular ball game is how many deep routes there were that took 2 or 3 seconds for them to develop because of the depth of the Vanderbilt secondary. So these receivers are going 15 yards before they make their first break, confusing the defenders, putting them in binds. Ty Simpson's anticipating. He knows leverage of where those defenders are and is able to deliver a strike while still getting rid of the ball before that defensive front has an opportunity to get to him.
How did you see Ty Simpson get maybe more comfortable, more on time as that game went along?
I don't know that you can get more comfortable than what he is playing right now. He comes in with a tremendous amount of confidence. He's reading defense as well as anticipating what they're going to do. He knows where he's going with the football, and he is not hesitant at all. So he started off a little bit slow, and I even made the comment on the broadcast, might have been off air, that it looked like he was playing at a faster pace than what his wide receivers were as far as anticipating holes coming open and where he was putting the ball. And sometimes you have to just kind of back off just a hair and make that adjustment. He was stepping into his throw, though, delivering strikes, especially in those tight windows along the sideline. That's a tough throw to make. You got to throw a BB in there, but you can't put it too far upfield, and you can't underthrow it as well because there's defenders bracketing that sideline receiver, and he consistently just over and over kept taking advantage of that, and that resulted in the 2-minute drive where Jeremy Bernard goes in for the touchdown. A couple of 2nd and 20 he converted on that sideline as well. So he took advantage of what this Vanderbilt defense was doing, and for the second week in a row, it looks like the defense they don't really know what they're doing. But it's the exact opposite. He understands exactly what they're doing, and he's able to take advantage of it.
Certainly did. A great performance by Ty Simpson this past week against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Next up, of course, is Missouri coming up on Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff. Our coverage will start at 8 a.m. all across the network. But then after that, if you're coming to Tuscaloosa for the Tennessee game, just around the corner for the 3rd Saturday in October, make sure you join us at Vector Security Champions Lane. It is the best pregame fan fest in the country. Our live radio broadcast will get things started 3 hours before kickoff, and that will be at 3:30 coming up for the Tennessee game for the 6:30 kickoff. So we'll have that starting at 3:30, and then we will have a free pregame concert featuring country music star Chase Matthew. We will also have the largest outdoor LED screens in Tuscaloosa, meet and greets with Alabama student athletes, plus food trucks, and of course ice-cold beer, always cold in Legends Lounge, where there is never a cover charge. Visit championslane.com each week for more details. We'll continue talking Alabama and Vanderbilt when we come back. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Single wide out left for Alabama. They bring Cuevas, the tight end, in motion to the left side. Play action. Simpson looking, deep downfield. Has Williams, comes back, makes the catch, makes a man miss, and then gets tackled at the 21-yard line.
Great completion there between Ty Simpson and Ryan Williams from Alabama's 30-14 win over Vanderbilt. If you'd like to join us on Crimson Tide Rewind, submit your questions to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN, brought to you by AL.com, Alabama's largest news site with daily coverage of the Crimson Tide. You can also give us a call, 877-202-BAMA. That is 877-202-2262. And right now we go to the phones all the way to Hawaii, where Laverne calls us now. Roll Tide, Laverne.
We're going to get him hearing aids soon.
Roll Tide, Laverne, you're on the air.
Well, hello there. This is Laverne at Waikiki, Hawaii.
That's a great place to be. We miss you in Vestavia Hills, Laverne, but it sounds like you all are having a great trip.
We are having a great time, but we've been discussing Alabama football, and we got us a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you think that Caden Proctor will be under center for at least one offensive play in Missouri?
Thank you, Laverne. Great question. Have a great trip.
Wow. Oh, you're going to make me answer that.
You are the football expert on this show.
How funny
it's really your show time.
How funny would that look with Parker Brailsford, the smallest offensive lineman, snapping the ball to Caden Proctor, the largest offensive lineman? That'd be a heck of a quarterback sneak, wouldn't it?
It really would be.
Hey, you don't put anything out. Although I will say this. Remember, Tua Tagovailoa in the national championship game had to come out of the game in the fourth quarter, and because he didn't know how to take a snap from center underneath. So it's not necessarily the easiest thing. Let's put him back in shotgun and let him get a little bit of a head start.
I would like to see get a head of steam, some momentum. That certainly would be good to see. And, a fun question. You mentioned Parker Brailsford. I was interviewing Wilkin Formby earlier this year for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and I was starting to ask him about all the different weight room numbers that Caden Proctor's putting up, saying he's got to be having all the records and things like that. He's like, on our group right now, it's Parker Brailsford.
Isn't that crazy?
The strongest men on this team.
That doesn't surprise me. He's also your best offensive lineman by far. His ability to pull, get out on the edge, he's faster than anyone else. He can run with linebackers, but also maneuvering guys on the inside, getting up to the second level. He was responsible for so many of those big gains on the ground versus Vanderbilt throughout that contest. Jam Miller and Kevin Riley are going to get a majority of the praise for the running game starting to click. But no, it starts with Parker Brailsford and what he's able to do. I mean, he's quick, he's fast, he's strong, as you just mentioned, and there's not anybody on that field on the defensive side that he can't go toe-to-toe with.
And Parker Brailsford, great honor for him today from the Southeastern Conference. He has been named the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, helping keeping this offensive line rolling. And again, we saw some more inventive blocking schemes from Ryan Grubb this past week as well.
He just continues to amaze you is what he does in creating numbers on one side or the other. A lot of pulling, a lot of getting on the edge, using those big bruisers to create holes. And then the pass pro continues to do just a jam-up job. Jam Miller and Kevin Riley both stepping up in the pocket, taking on linebackers. Vanderbilt tried to throw everything they could. They tried to play soft. They tried to bring pressure, mix it up, try to change the looks as much as possible, bringing safeties down in the box, then retreating them out, possibly bringing them. None of it worked because of the eye discipline of this offensive line. And as you mentioned, Parker Brailsford, it really starts with him.
It really does. Great performance by Parker Brailsford. We appreciate the call from Laverne. Hope they have a great trip to Hawaii. We miss them here at Baumhower's Victory Grille because it's your big game headquarters this fall for the 2025 football season. Baumhower's has been voted best wings in Alabama and the #1 sports-themed restaurant in the state. They're featuring their fan favorites this fall that include the Ragin' Cajun Gooey Fries, Go Fish, the Gooey Char-Grilled Chicken Sandwich, and their scratch-made Cabo Wabo Tequila Margaritas. All you football fans, kick off your season in legendary fashion and make Baumhower's Victory Grille your big game headquarters all season long. More on the Crimson Tide's win against Vanderbilt and looking ahead to Missouri coming up. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Proctor in the backfield this time as Simpson operates under center. He'll hand it off, and Proctor will rumble forward and get the first down. Special K getting it done for the Crimson Tide again.
How do you like the nickname Special
K? I like
Proctor.
that. I like that.
Chris Stewart on the call of Caden Proctor, the People's running back, getting some tough yardage there for the Crimson Tide this past week.
Roger, it's funny. A lot of times we rotate a lot of offensive linemen in and out of the ball game, and most of the time I'm having to nudge Chris and go, "Hey, such and such is in. They moved over here, whatever." He did not need any help noticing that Caden Proctor was in the backfield. Something doesn't look right.
Yeah, and it was fun to see him line out wide against Georgia the week before, and who knows, maybe under center at one point.
Underneath center in shotgun, out there at wide receiver, you just never know.
You just never know. So, again, fun to see that for Caden Proctor, part of Alabama's win against Vanderbilt. Let's take a look at some SEC scores from this past Saturday. Oklahoma 44-0 over Kent State. Not too much of a surprise there, as OU still has to learn how to play without John Batier.
Yeah, and what's the deal? Is he potentially going to come back for the game versus Texas this week? Is there any chance that happens?
I don't think that soon. But I think by the time Alabama plays them in November, he will be back.
Okay, well, it's going to be tough. Well, I say that it was good. We would have all thought it was going to be tough, but now you know, it's Kent State.
I'm not asking you to totally go into that.
Yeah, you don't have a clue.
Their defense is very good.
Their defense is always going to keep them in the football game, regardless of who they're playing.
And then Texas A&M, speaking of good defense, 31-9 against Mississippi State.
Trying to listen to that game on the way home, and it was just every time you turn your head, it was another punt. I mean, it was a defensive struggle for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter, late in the third quarter, fourth quarter, that A&M offense really exploded. And let me say this about A&M. You know, I think that what Notre Dame is doing now really shows you how good this Texas A&M football team is, to be able to go on the road on the heels of a loss versus Miami and be able to win that football game in overtime the way that they did. Backs against the wall, had to drive the length of the field, were able to do it. You say what you want to about the last touchdown throw that he had, but they had a punt that was blocked for a touchdown, and they competed against what I think is a really good Notre Dame team as well.
Certainly do. So, again, keep an eye out for the Aggies, off to a 5-0 start, 2-0 in the SEC. And then 2 other teams we will not see this year in the regular season. The Florida Gators pick up a 29-21 win against 9th-ranked Texas, a badly needed win for Billy Napier in Gainesville. And for the Longhorns, that's now a 3-2 start.
You know, and Billy Napier has really struggled down in Gainesville to put a lot of wins together. However, his team continues just to play hard for him. And that is saying something about his character and the program that he is building. But is it more of praise for Florida and maybe they're turning things, or is it an indictment against Texas and where they are as a football team right now?
And for Arch Manning, has still had some tough moments, it seemed like, against the Florida Gators, but the loss not all on his shoulders, would you say?
No losses on any one individual. You experience that every single week. When you put game film on, you can see 100 different mistakes that are made by multiple people. But just as explosive as you thought that offense would be, not being able to score more points than what they are. And even the last touchdown was late in that football game. Now, granted, Florida has a good defense as well. I mean, you think about what they did versus LSU. They competed versus Miami. However, you would think that Steve Sarkisian, we saw him draw up some really incredible stuff here in Tuscaloosa with some talented guys, and he has a lot of speed on that football team, but they're just not able to make it happen.
Certainly not to this point. So, again, Florida gets the win against Texas. And then Georgia, in the first game of the day, picked up a 35-14 win against Kentucky. The Wildcats now 0-3 in the SEC. And for Georgia, kind of a get-right opportunity after losing to Alabama.
Right, and now they have to turn around and go to Auburn and play at night, a game that they have really dominated over the last 10, 12 years. But that's going to be a tough environment. But you know, similar to how Alabama utilized the loss versus Florida State to really get their attention, make them focus on detail, you know that Kirby Smart is doing the same thing in Athens right now.
As we sit here getting ready for Week 7, who's the best team in the SEC?
Wow, that's a great question. Record-wise, obviously, you'd have to lean towards Ole Miss or maybe A&M based on that. But I think that there are 4 or 5 teams that are all playing really good football right now, and they're all within one possession. Depending on the day is probably how it tilts one way or the other.
It's going to be a fascinating race coming up in the SEC. Just a quick peek ahead to some of the matchups we have coming up this weekend. Not only Alabama against Missouri, Ole Miss out of conference. It will be Oklahoma against Texas, Arkansas against Tennessee. Florida has to go to Texas A&M. And then, as you mentioned, Georgia at Auburn, and then South Carolina at LSU as the Tigers try and bounce back.
That'll be interesting to see what Lenore Sellers is able to do against that LSU defense and what improvement LSU has made offensively. South Carolina, I think you can score points on them. LSU has the ability to, but they've really struggled this year offensively, putting up points consistently. So, I mean, that'll be a good game.
Certainly will be. And then Bobby Petrino returning to the sidelines as the interim head coach for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Things about to run off the tracks, man. I mean, it's going off the rails there in Arkansas. You watch.
It's going to be entertaining one way or another. They take on Tennessee. That'll be the opponent for the Tide coming up in 2 weeks. But the opponent coming up this week, the Missouri Tigers. More on them when we return. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Simpson from the pistol. Everybody bunch left. He'll go on the toss to Jam. He cuts it back. He's got a first down. He's got a touchdown. Kate Proctor Proctor with a block that sprung him.
Jam Miller with the knockout blow this past week against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Again, 2 weeks Jam Miller's been healthy. 2 weeks, Tyler, he's been effective.
He was awesome. 130-something yards rushing, and I love to see him get that late touchdown. Although the game was well in hand, and we were just trying to run the clock out, Missouri would not have been able to do, or excuse me, Vanderbilt would not have been able to. I'm like Diego Pavio celebrating a kneel right now, aren't I?
Did you ever celebrate kneel downs pregame?
Lord, no. Lord, no. I guess he leaves no stone unturned except for turning the ball over in the red zone. But to see him get that touchdown was well-deserved because he had ran so hard all day long to get his first score of the season, being that workhorse. And we had talked about it. That's late in the game right there. They'll tell you the defense is selling out on the run. If you're able to break that first line of containment of defense, a lot of times you'll see long touchdown runs in those situations.
Great to see that for Jam Miller as the Crimson Tide put the finishing touches on that 30-14 win against Vanderbilt. And now we've been talking about it. Missouri, the next opponent for the Crimson Tide. Tyler, it's always dangerous on a couple of levels. You have to take on a team at 11 a.m. on the road, but also you have to take on a team that's coming off of a bye week.
That's the tougher part that I'm concerned with. Once again, we talk about this all the time. This Alabama football team practices early in the morning. Their motors are up running. They're used to getting going, getting that energy early on in this type of environment. So the bigger concern is what has Missouri done in that off week? What new things is this Alabama defense going to see that potentially could give them some problems? But when you're going on the road, you have to continue to play good in the first quarter, let the game kind of settle down, and then the better talent typically will rise to the top. So hopefully we're in a position to be able to compete early on, and then we just kind of keep punching them. It's a good Missouri offense, though. They run for a lot of yards. This defensive front linebackers are going to have their hands full with really eliminating. However, I like the fact that we have seen this style. Now, obviously not to the talent, but La Monroe ran something very similar. They tried to stick with that outside zone. Wisconsin ran a lot of it, a lot of misdirection off of it, however, as well. So Alabama has to be eye-disciplined once again for the second week in a row and making sure they're limiting Missouri's opportunities to make second and medium, third and short chances to be able to convert first downs.
Missouri has one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah.
Ahmad Hardy, he leads all rushers in the nation, 730 yards. He's done that in only 5 games this season.
That's not bad. Now, South Carolina held them to, 27, 28 points over the course of the 4 quarters. And you just have to feel good about if we can score 30 or more moving out. I know that's not too tough, right? Just go out there and score 30 points. But we know how capable we are. I think there's going to be very few teams that can hang with us if we have that firepower going, and especially if we're playing ball control.
Ball control will be key. Again, it's Alabama against Missouri coming up. A few more notes on that. Plus what's coming up this week on the Crimson Tide Sports Network when we return for our final segment. What's on tap next for Bama? We'll give you that when we return for, again, the final segment tonight of Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. What's on tap next for Bama? Brought to you by Coors Light. Crimson Tide fans choose to chill with an ice-cold Coors Light. Well, next up, the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Missouri Tigers. 11 a.m. kickoff on Saturday. Our radio coverage will start at 8 a.m. against Tyler, a team that is off to a 5-0 start. Certainly looks good, not just offensively, but the Tigers have the nation's second-best defense, only giving up 203 yards per game. And also, Missouri currently leading the nation in time of possession, owning the ball for an average of 37-29 a game.
Wow. Well, you're going to find out a couple of things in this ball game. Is the staying power of Alabama there? Can we turn it back to back and keep that focus that you need in this 5-game stretch? Because then you have Tennessee and then you go to South Carolina after that. Or is the focus there? Is this a top 5, top 10 football team? And then for Missouri, you're going to find out this will be by far their best competition of the season. Are they able to continue to do what they've done versus their other opponents versus this Alabama defense and Alabama offense?
It's going to be a lot of fun coming up on Saturday. Alabama against Missouri. There's still some construction in the stadium as they renovate Faurot Field at Memorial Stadium. But again, if Alabama brings its energy, you feel like the Crimson Tide are trending in the right direction.
You do, and you think that you're going to have spillover as that confidence continues to improve on a weekly basis. We have remained relatively healthy as far as the eye can see from 50 yards away. So those are important things, though. We're playing a lot of players. We're getting a lot of reps in. You're starting to build some depth that you can trust to play all 4 quarters regardless of what the situation is. So you like where you're sitting, but now you got to take it on a tough environment. Early kickoff. Everybody's against you. The rocks are moved in the end zone. I mean, it's just chaos everywhere.
We look forward to it. Well, Tyler, coming up, safe travels to Missouri, and then we're going to be back here coming up next week to talk about the Missouri game and look ahead to Tennessee as well. That will be a 6:30 kickoff coming up for the 3rd Saturday in October. It should be a lot of fun. Roll Tide.
I certainly hope so. Roll Tide. Have safe travels.
Absolutely. That's Tyler Watts. I'm Roger Hoover. I want to remind you that we have Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR, our live streaming talk show coming up on the Crimson Tide Sports Network Tuesday, tomorrow, and Thursday at 2 o'clock. Some conversations with current Crimson Tide football players like Nakai Hill Green will be coming up in a few weeks. So we look forward to visiting with him. Also, offensive lineman Michael Carroll and Jan Pierre will be on Thursday's show. Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, 6 p.m. from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Tuscaloosa Wednesday starting at 6 p.m. And then our coverage will again start at 8 a.m. coming up on Saturday. Have you missed any portion of the show? Catch it on demand on our Alabama Insider podcast. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That does it for Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. Jerry Kelly at our Learfield Studios, our engineer Todd Robbins, and Tyler Watts. I'm Roger Hoover saying thank you for listening and roll Tide.